You, all you.
Okay, so my name is Gilbert High, and I'm president of the board of directors of Pennypack. We're experimenting tonight and having this 52nd annual membership meeting by Zoom. Hopefully that is not totally unfamiliar with everyone, but if it is, Kevin is our Zoom master, and he's going to provide instructions to all of us as he already has with regard to how to vote, which we'll be doing a little bit later in the meeting. And also, if you have any questions, you can go to the chat button and you can raise your hand there and say, okay, I've got a question. What's happening here? So we have a goodly number of people who have signed up to participate in this meeting. And hopefully by doing it by Zoom, we'll have more people participate if they happen to be in Florida or Wisconsin or California or Kalamazoo. You could participate and join the meeting from wherever you are. And that would be terrific if we could have as many people as possible participate in this meeting. It's a little crowded, and you have pizza being shifted around at our normal meeting, but you can sit in your home or in your study, which is where I am at the moment, and enjoy the meeting and enjoy the information that you get. We're going to conduct this meeting in a kind of an agenda fashion as we normally have. And so why don't we start right into it? And the first order of business is going to be the acceptance of minutes from the last annual meeting. And I'll call on David Rowland to raise his voice in that regard. David?
Great, thanks, Gil. Distributed on the website or via the website, the trust website, were the minutes from the 51st annual meeting that was held last December 7th. If anybody has any corrections to those minutes, we'll entertain it now in the chat box. Otherwise, I would move that we accept the minutes from last year's meeting.
So do I see a motion? Somebody can raise their hand to make a motion to accept these minutes. And is there, I see Richard Booth has raised his hand in that regard. Any additions or corrections that anybody would wish to make to those minutes? Do we see any, Kevin?
Nope.
No, okay. Then if there are no additions or corrections, please raise your hand to accept the minutes of the annual meeting of the 51st annual meeting.
I see nothing but red check marks, thumbs up, and hand raising.
So this is great practice.
Sure.
Okay, so the minutes are unanimously accepted. Thank you very much for that. Next item of business is going to be the treasurer's report. Paul Rutherford is the treasurer of the Pennypack and has been, frankly, since the memory of man knoweth not. So, Paul, I'm going to give you a call and have you make that presentation.
Thanks, Gil. Yeah, I think I am older than most of the trees in the Pennypack, so thank you. The members should have received a annual report. I know mine came in the mail this weekend. And on page 11, and also on the screen, you can see our annual operating statement for the fiscal year of 2022. A few observations. It's interesting. I looked back 5 years ago to see what our operating budget was, and it was half the amount that you're seeing on your screen. The previous 5 years have seen tremendous growth in land under management, our staff, our programs. we have to keep our buildings and our grounds in good shape. So really, our budget has certainly expanded and grown. With that comes a obligation to fund, and you can see that again in the first few lines of our operating statement. We depend on our members. We rely heavily on our members, and while I'm preaching to the choir here, certainly if our members know other people who would like to join, we would certainly welcome them, and we would also welcome their annual dues. The Finance and Investment Committee, which I chair, also monitors, we establish investment objectives and monitor our investments and depend on our endowments, again, for a substantial portion of our operating budget. We take about 4.5% of the endowment's value every year as distributions to our budget. And then you also see generous members who gift. We also raise funds through programs and retail sales like our bird seed sale. And certainly that provides the revenue that you see. Certainly on the expenditure side, everybody knows what we have been seeing lately. Inflation, which was previously expected to be transitory, has not really or has really stayed with us. And we have seen a lot of costs, both operating costs. Certainly, we want to make sure that our staff is fairly compensated. We're in the midst of a capital campaign, and we're seeing materials costs go up. So certainly, this is a challenge, and as our operating budgets grow, and they should be, we have a lot to take care of. We depend on the yeoman service of our staff, and also again the members that I serve with on the investment and finance committee. So thank you, members, for your support. Thank you, staff and committee members, for all your help in monitoring investments and budgets. It's a challenge, but I think we've been doing very, very well. Lastly, certainly with our we have auditors, that the trust has auditors, and they are presently completing the review of our fiscal year. Again, fiscal year is June 30th of 2022. We anticipate the draft, it's called the 990, will be reviewed and approved by the board by March. And then these copies of these audited statements will be available by contacting our executive director. So for those members who are interested in the finances, the accounting of the trust, stay tuned, and we should have that available. With that, I think I will pass it back to Gil. Obviously, if there are questions, please put them in the chat box. But with that, I'll pass it back. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me say a few words so that if there are questions, people can be recognized. You will note from this report that membership and annual appeal represent a significant, but not even half of the cost of operations. We get grants from other institutions for doing specific work. For instance, monitoring the water levels or the water quality in the Pennypack Creek, and for doing other stormwater management work related to runoff into the creek. And those grants you see here specifically, we used not to put those into the operating statement, but we've decided that full disclosure really now requires that. So part of the increase in the revenue and support is that we in fact now are showing these grants not as offline, but as online receipts. The endowments are restricted, and some are restricted, others are not restricted, but we limit the drawdowns that we take from the endowments to 4.5% of the principal of those endowments. So gifts that have been made by generous people in the past and which are continuing are those that make up our endowments. And they are, of course, critical to what the board does. But the chief job of the board of directors, aside from their work on committees, is to oversee the expenditure of funds and to monitor the receipt of funds so that we are careful to be thankful to those who give us gifts, and so that we regulate our expenditures so that we never go into the red. And if you see that we are slightly over in terms of expenditures and in terms of revenue, that simply is because we have not drawn down the full 4.5% from endowments. So this is this page here that you are looking at is very carefully monitored by the board, and of course is overseen by Chris Mendel, the executive director, who wears these numbers on his forehead every day. So Paul, thank you so very much for that report. Are there any questions that have been raised, Kevin, that you see?
No questions.
Okay. Then why don't we move on to the election to the board of directors. Of course, the board of directors by our bylaws are elected by the membership. We are not, if you will, a board of directors that elects themselves. So while we do feel the commitment to bring to membership those whose nominations have been put forth, we also want the directors, or excuse me, the membership to understand that the directors are just an extremely highly qualified and highly motivated group of people. Their bios are on our website, so you can read them. Of the 6 persons who are being put forth to the membership for election, 5 of those, that is Fred Bryanson and Trip Davis, Bob Reithmiller, David Rowland, and Butter D'Alessandro, are on the board at the present time and have responsible positions. New to the board is Will Weinmayer, who has served on the Property and Facilities Committee for the past year, it now being the policy of the board that before we bring somebody onto the board of directors, we ask that they serve on a committee in order to reflect their commitment to the cause, and also to see whether this is in fact something to which they want to dedicate the substantial amount of time, energy, and thought that the board of directors requests. So I have these 6 persons who've been set forth by the nominating committee for election for a 3-year term, and would put forth that question then. And I feel free to place in nomination these 6 individuals. I'll ask for somebody to make a second. So if we see a raise of hands there. So Trip Davis is seconded. And now, are there any questions that any of the members have with regard to either the process or with respect to any of these 6 individuals?
I don't see
Yes,
any
Trip-
questions so
Trip
far.
has just noted that the pictures of the presentation that are set forth here, Grace, Tripp with the same first name that Butter has. I don't think, Tripp, from what I understand, your first name is Louise. But you know, Lewis will do fine. Thank you for bringing that. Okay, so are there any questions that folks have?
I don't see any
Kevin,
questions,
any
Gil.
hands raised?
Nothing but yeses from my end.
So I see David Robinson has raised his hand. I'm not sure whether that is to vote, but before I even call on David, I would really like to note that David Robinson, being the past executive director of the Pennypack Trust and now a resident of Colorado, and one of the great loyal and devoted folks who are a part of the team, even though he is not in an official role. But David is always willing to lend his support. And I know that Chris Mendel calls on him with regularity. So David, you are there. Would David like to say something, or do you have a question?
Thank you. That was my vote. That I don't need to say anything right now. Thank you.
Okay, but David, we recognize you and we so appreciate you being a part of this meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll call for a vote now. All those in favor of the motion to approve these 6 individuals for election to the board of directors, please raise your hand. And are there any nays?
It's unanimously yes from my end.
Unanimously, yes. Wonderful. Well, congratulations to the 6 of them. And I thank everyone for being a part of this election process. So we'll go on now to the program for the evening. And before I do that, I want to make a mention of Claire Rubenstein. Claire has resigned from the board as of this meeting. Claire has been on the board of directors for 17 years. He was here for a number of years before I arrived on the scene. He has served on the finance committee and has been the key person that we have looked to oversee our investment strategy and our investment philosophy with regard to the endowments. He is such a committed person to this organization, and we owe him a great debt of thanks for his 17 years of service to the board and to the Pennypack community. So we'll spread that on the minutes of this meeting, but if Claire happens to be online here, just a word of thanks to Claire for all that you have done and the advice and counsel that you have provided to the board of directors over these years. You will be missed, and we wish you well, my friend, and you stay with us. Okay, we shall move along to a trivia break. So Chris Mendel is going to lead us in a bit of trivia. Okay, Christopher?
Yeah, it's always good to start with trivia, right? Keep us in our places here. So, which of the following, and we're going to use buttons that are going to pop up thanks to
Chris, we are
Lara
not
and to
gonna use
Kev.
buttons. The buttons are not working because we are double signed on to this account. So just go to the chat box and
Oh no, really?
Yep. No big deal. Just go to the chat box and type in the what your guess would be for this one here. But
Okay.
Chris, you can go ahead and read it out.
Thanks very much. So, which of the following was awarded to the Pennypack Trust in 2022? Was it the Eastern Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce's Nonprofit of the Year? Was it the PA Game Commission's Biggest Buck Award? Was it the Delaware River Basin Commission's Best Small to Mid-Sized Restored Creek? And I like that category a lot. Or the Odd Fellows Weirdest Woods Award? Everyone put your answers in. In a couple seconds, we will reveal the truth. A, B, C, and D, says Butter. Nice one, Butter. All right, the answer is
We're in suspense.
Kevin. The answer is
We were Eastern Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce's Nonprofit of the Year.
woo. Flip the slide, dude.
Bravo, congratulations.
There we go. And just to prove it, there it is, the giant piece of plastic that says we are the Eastern Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce Nonprofit of the Year.
That's after an examination, not only of what we do, but it's after an examination of our financial statement as well. So we thank the Eastern Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce.
That was fantastic. That really is a fantastic award. And to realize just how big Eastern Montgomery County is takes us all the way out to the Blue Route. It's really an honor for this organization to be recognized in that way.
I mean, there are
Um,
hundreds and hundreds of nonprofit organizations within that geographical limit. So for us to be on top and get this award is a great tribute.
So we're going to move on now with a presentation of what myself and my coworkers have been up to all this year and look forward to all next year. And you'll see over the next probably 20 to 25 minutes, just a huge amount of work has been accomplished, and yet we're hungry for more. Certainly the capital campaign has added yet more weight to what we normally take on our shoulders, but it's really fantastic work. We're about 1/3 of the way through the progress of not the capital campaign in terms of raising money, but building what you all have so generously funded. And for that, I want to make sure that all of you know that we really appreciate the gifts that you've made, not just on an annual basis, but also to fund the capital campaign. It's really tremendous work that we're doing, necessary work that we're doing to see us enter the next 50 years here as a land trust and nature preserve for you. And this first phase of work is about underground work. It's about infrastructure, but it's really about sustainable infrastructure. You guys have seen this image before. This is a rendering of the site work and gardens and the new head of trails that we look forward to in phase 3. But you also see the solar panels there on the top of the visitor center that were part of our initial thoughts here. So moving on to the next slide. We've installed those solar panels just this past July, and the metering and all of the electrical grid connections have just been completed. But we really want to say thank you to Richard and Lowell Booth, who gave a specific gift for these renewable infrastructure energy projects. And we really look forward to having these attrit more than half of the electrical consumption that we have on an annual basis. Because of that attrition, because of the amount of electricity that these will be generating, we expect that this $46,000 investment will be paid off within 8 to 14 years. Solar panels, domestically made solar panels, are remarkably efficient, and we encourage all of you to use them. And we've also bitten off quite a bit of carbon footprint by changing all of our propane-driven heating and cooling systems to entirely geothermal. With this addition that's happened for the director's house, the visitor center, and the office, we've essentially given the boot to propane as a heating system for the entire headquarters, which basically means that we're walking the walk and talking the talk with regard to sustainability for this century. This was a huge investment, over $160,000 just for the geothermal system alone. And we expect that the return on investment will be 16 to 29 years. However, with this and both solar energy, we know that we're making an investment not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors, and in fact, for the world. So we're looking forward to being part of the change, if you will. Now, speaking of looking forward, and Kevin, you had your finger on the button there. Our next phase of improvements through this capital campaign are interior renovations. So this coming January, We will start these renovations for new public bathrooms in the visitor center, as well as this new, what we call the BLBB field station, which is in the lower level of the office here. That will be a completely independent and public space that is, again, sponsored by BLBB Charitable. They've given over $130,000 for the naming rights for the BLBB field station. All of these things will be universally accessible, energy efficient, water efficient, and will expand the way in which we host all of our guests, and of course, expand our education mission first and foremost. So thanks again to BLBB Charitable for doing that. We look forward to Gurney Kerr's work. They're the general contractor, as well as the beautiful work of Revision Architecture to make these visions a reality. So a little bit of a trivia question here. How well were you listening here? How long will it take our solar panels to pay for themselves? Is it 1 to 5 years, 4 to 9 years, 6 to 10, or 8 to 14? Look at all you smart people weighing in there. No one here can be fooled. The answer is, in fact, 8 to 14. All right. Moving on now, I'm going to pass the baton to Maria Paula Mugnani, our Research and Restoration Coordinator, to talk about all of the great sustainable work that we're doing in our 863 acres. Don't mean to jump the gun. MP?
Thank you, Chris. Is Kevin in control of the slides?
Yes, I am.
So many of you just hiking around the trust recently have probably noticed new trees popping up that have been planted over the past year. And we wanted to give you a little behind the scenes look of what that involves. So the one I'm going to talk about today is our Peak Woods restoration. Many of you who, you'll park at our Creek Road parking lot, or maybe you walking down on Creek Trail. If you head up that hill on Raythorn, you're going to see all along that tree line newly planted trees that were put in April. Here's a great view of it, and that was all planted in April, and we are not stopping this coming year. We have new plans for trees to be planted elsewhere. But just to look at our formula here that we've developed for restoring forests, we have 4 major steps here. And you'll notice that this takes place over a long period of time. So we started in Peak Woods in fall 2021, and that was the planning phase, applying for our grants, looking at the sites and deciding what tree needs and what management needs we need to prepare the site. In the winter, the site preparation, and finally planting in the spring, and then long-term care in the summer. And you'll notice in these pictures here, people are involved in all stages of this restoration. And I want to especially highlight the site preparation, planting, and long-term care, because that's really where our membership shines. They're all coming out as volunteers, and it's really made this possible for us. Next slide. So after we've planned out our needs and ordered all our native trees, we are ready to start preparing these sites for planting. So we do have our staff out there mowing or spraying to prepare some of the area for planting, but you guys come out in droves in the coldest days during the winter as part of the Free a Tree group, the first Saturday of the month, and you just help. You have no idea how much that helps to clear out all the invasive vines, all the debris, and really free up the area for the trees. So you can see here in these pictures the amount of people who come out. Many of you are probably here tonight helping us clear all that out. We couldn't fit in the trees without all that clearing. Then in April here, we have planting in Peak Woods. Actually, we were able to experiment with pre-drilling holes in this rocky terrain, which really helped speed up the planting. We planted 300 trees and 25 shrubs in one morning. So this was a service day for Earth Day. We had our volunteers, a lot of you signed up, planted these trees. We had our staff expertise there to help us distribute all the tree species to diversify that canopy. And then, of course, the ubiquitous caging to protect them from the deer. So this was a great day. It was a little bit rainy, but all of you showed up, and we are so grateful to our volunteers for helping us plant all that huge amount of tree, like 300. Next slide. And then finally, after those trees are planted, we are looking at how we can make these new forest plots sustainable. And the way we do that is a very unique program we've developed here at the Trust. It's called the Reforester Program. And you'll see here on the right, we've divided up our Peak Woods planting into plots, and just members just like you, no background in forestry or management, they can adopt a plot 3 hours a month, helping us take care of the trees, learning plant ID, invasive ID, about tree care. And it's just an amazing program. Here's Cataline here. He's got a plot here. There's Lori and Richard clearing their Peak Woods plot. It's a lot of work in the heat of the summer, but they look great if you walk on them now. We've got Betsy and Julie here, wonderful ladies taking care of their Peak Woods plots. I should say that these are 3 reforesters out of 58. So it's a wonderful group. We're always looking for new people to help with our new plantings. And I'll put in a little plug here. We're actually already planning for the next planting phase along Paper Mill Road and moving down from management exclosure, that forest edge. And so we'll be looking in the spring for new reforesters to join as the new generation for 2023. So definitely reach out to myself or just the organization and let us know. We'd love to have you on as the new cohort of reforesters. It's a great group, and there's really no land trust in the area that's doing this level of work, local conservation with our membership. So it's great. We're gonna have a little trivia question next. So a little poll break. So we want to ask you, were you involved with this Peak Woods effort this year? So yes, you attended the Free a Tree program. Yes, you planted some trees on that volunteer day. Yes, you're a reforester. Not yet, but maybe you want to join that 2023 cohort. And no, you support the Trust in other ways. I know some of you have overlap, so feel free to answer with multiple letters. Oh, I see those letters. Oh, that's great. I'm seeing a lot A, B, and C. Wow. Yeah, I knew you were all coming tonight. That's awesome. Thank you so much. This has made our tree planting sustainable. We can now direct efforts towards research or managing other areas, whereas before staff really had to stay on top of tree clearing all on their own. So you literally made our foresting at the Trust sustainable, and we can constantly be planting like 500 trees every year. It's just changed everything we do here. So thank you so much.
And if you clicked D for this poll, January 7th at 10 a.m. is our next tree program. That's kind of a prerequisite to get involved with reforesters. You get the background knowledge, you get active, you meet some other people, and then you eat some pizza. So if you selected D, you can head right to our website right now, and you can register for January 7th Free a Tree and come hang out with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great gateway to get to know the work and meet our staff members and jump into reforesters from there if it meets your fancy. So that's great. One last thing I want to plug is we've started to look at our grasslands and meadows, thinking critically about what sort of ecological services they're providing in the context of insect pollinators. So interactions between our insects and plants. So especially focusing on bees, wasps, butterflies, and moths. So we've been conducting that research for the past 2 years with our great entomologist intern, Katie Lynn, and Sarah Pelleccia, our staff entomologist. And we'll be talking in 2 sessions here about our research so far, conducting a baseline understanding of those insect pollinator interactions. So I hope you guys can sign up on our calendar and attend both talks, because Grace McMacken from Bryn Athyn College, she's a great bee ecologist. She's going to talk to us about the local bees and a lot of her research that she did collaborating with us. And then the second session, we'll be talking about our methodologies and research in our grasslands. So I hope to see you there. I think we have one poll in regards to this session. Hopefully it gets you excited about bugs. So what are your feelings about bugs? Absolutely not a fan. They're fine as long as they're not in my house. Bugs are a fascinating piece of our ecosystem, or I love them. You could basically call me an entomologist. I want to see a lot of those Ds. Okay, lots of C's. Yes, fascinating part of our ecosystem. Yeah. Great. Well, it sounds like a lot of you already have an interest in our bugs. And so I hope to see all of you there at our talk in late February. All right, and I'll pass it over now to Laura Thrapp, our communications coordinator.
Thanks, MP. Yeah, we had a really great turnout this year at a couple events. Some of them pictured here: 5K, a hayride, a barn party, creek cleanup, a gala last year. So everybody's kind of coming back to in person and flocking to the preserve. And it's just a really great way to get involved and meet fellow members. So we wanted to give you a schedule for this upcoming year, lots of things to mark your calendar on. And we've got quite the slate for you. Our marketing committee is working together to make all of these interactions with the trust and fellow members and also volunteer events really worthwhile. And of course, there's more to come in 2024, which is already a year or so out. But this is our slate for the upcoming year. We'll have this on our website. We'll also have this in our coming events and a save the date postcard. So we just wanted to give you a sneak preview of all the exciting things to come.
And a quick shout out to Kathleen Ernst there in the bottom hand corner. Trash bags and invasive species. That's what we like to see.
Kathleen's a super volunteer.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Lord's New Church, who enables us to park on their property for the 5K and for the full moon hayride. Thank you very much for that. It's that level of partnership that we have with Lord's New Church, with Cairnwood, with so many institutions around here that makes these things not just successful, but fun and collaborative. A quick note here about property acquisition. We're more than just a nature preserve. We're also a land trust, and we're always on the lookout for ways in which we can protect and preserve more open space here in Huntington Valley. Many of you may know that we're a different kind of land trust, and that we're simply not managing conservation easements all over Montgomery and Bucks County like many other land trusts do, but we only seek to preserve land that is contiguous with the Pennypack Creek and contiguous with those lands that we already own. And that's really for habitat reasons as well as for maintenance reasons. So together, this land trust and nature preserve are self-supporting. And so that makes us very selective in where we can help our neighbors perpetually conserve their land, whether that's through a conservation easement or through a sale to the Pennypack Trust. And just looking back a handful of years, you can see that we've been active in our core area. So 20.6 areas in Lower Moreland Township in 2019, about 5.6 in Upper Moreland, another 10.13 just this year in Abington Township. And I want to point out that 2 of those donations, the 5.6 and 10.1, were donated fully to the Pennypack Trust. We did not pay cash for those conservation easements, and that's the kind of stuff that this trust is built on, and we really appreciate that. That doesn't mean that we're not prepared to pay cash and to do transactions that are necessary to make sure that we're paying for those development rights by way of a conservation easement or for real estate fee simple. I would love to tell you all about the many, many irons in the fire that we have for transactions in the future. But I won't, and I can't do that. But it is our job to make sure that we are keeping relationships happy and healthy for when we have those opportunities. And we look forward to giving you guys a report in the years to come about how we're exceeding 862 acres, how we're hopefully going to cross that 900 acre line sometime soon and potentially meet the 1,000 acre mark in the next couple of years. Those are my ambitions for sure. And of course, when we do that, as per our mission, they will remain forever an asset to our neighbors and remain forever natural and native. So speaking of property, let's get down to details for just a second. I know that it has been, it's 3 years in a row at these annual meetings. We've talked to you about the state of Creek Road and how we're trying to improve it. And I think I think it can be said that there's almost nowhere to go but up with regard to Creek Road. It's at the bottom of the floodplain. It's been eroding for many, many years. It's a difficult thing to maintain given the fact that it is a road stricken from the records and it's in the floodplain. But we're doing our darndest to keep this thing alive and also to maintain it as a vital trail because it is by far and away the most accessible route for all of our members and all of our guests. But it's also a really important artery for us to be able to do maintenance and to be able to survey the property. So in the previous slide you saw there, we were maintaining a portion of Creek Road where the beavers had changed the way drainage was working over at Crossroads Marsh. And we did not want to evict the beavers from Crossroads Marsh. They've been fantastic land managers and we're happy to partner with them every year. So we've conquered that problem. But then the next year we had this problem, which was the hundreds, nearly 1,000 linear feet of trail destroyed by Hurricane Ida. And we recovered by using geotextiles and the debris that she sorted for us so that we could armor this part of the trail against frequent or heavy storms that we know are coming in the future. And what we're taking on now is a new portion of Creek Road. This is the southernmost portion near Raythorn, where that road is eroding not necessarily from floodwaters, but from overland flow coming from the valley walls above. So Peak Woods and Raythorn Farm, they all drain down and across those pavements. And that's in large part what's responsible for that erosion. So re-envisioning this area not as a roadway, but as an accessible trail. We've been experimenting with a bunch of different materials, like what you see here, cobblestone set in mortar so that the joints are conveying water and it's not an icy surface or it's not a muddy surface for those folks looking to bike ride or walk their dog or even ride a horse across this trail. And then trying to economize or make a leitmotif, if you will, off those cobblestones by using concrete. And my friend and I, Ike, poured that concrete just the day before Thanksgiving as we're trying to figure out what's the right recipe for solving the durability, accessibility, and stormwater management issues on this part of the trail that we know should be the most accessible part of the trail. And it will also be the longest length of trail from Creek Road, from the existing Creek Road at Raythorn. And we're going to rename that portion of trail Creek Trail all the way up to Pennypack Road. So that means the conversion of Pennypack Parkway to Creek Trail. Now, finally, we've challenged you folks, our members, to help us in the annual fund to rethink some of the hardest hit parts of Creek Trail. And that is that section between Peak Woods, Peak Trail and Management Trail, where it is right next to the creek. And so this area is not just hit by overland flow from Raythorn Farm, but also from the most frequent flooding from the Pennypack Creek itself. How do we recast that in a way that's sustainable, but also durable and enables us to keep that accessibility for years to come. And we're really happy that you guys have already donated over $28,000 by way of our annual fund, by way of Giving Tuesday. And we know that those gifts are going to continue to come through most of December. We expect this to cost at least $40,000, but your support and your enthusiasm for this is just fantastic. Thank you very much for doing that. So moving back out now and thinking about what's next for the Pennypack Trust, as you just heard from so many different committees and so many different wonderful skill sets that we have here on staff. We're going to rethink the entire process in a new strategic plan. Some of you very intimate with the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust may know our current strategic plan that we formed with the guidance of LaSalle Nonprofit Center under the tutelage of David Robertson. That was guiding us from 2017 to 2022. In fact, that's a very solid plan. If you would like to take a look at that, it's available on our website. I can't tell you what a great document that is for helping us grow and giving us a roadmap for growth and evolution. And we expect to expound on those things and develop them over the next, say, 5 to 10 years in a new strategic plan. And you can see our core mission statement here: to remain forever an asset to the community, forever natural and native, and a standard of excellence for research and restoration and stewardship practices to be shared with anybody who really cares about the environment. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from our members. We want to hear from our board members. We want to hear about what things should we be thinking of in the next 5 to 10 years. And as we're just getting started here, we still have yet to develop a formal framework for engagement, not just with our committees, but with you, but with our members. But we'll be sure to do it and look out for emails and e-blasts from Laura, as well as other communications as Kevin manages our social media, so that you can have a chance to participate live and in person, come into the office through structured meetings or other venues. So, Laura, you want to talk about the photo contest? Laura, you're muted.
Sorry. Sorry. So as you're thinking about your strategic plans for the trust, maybe you take a stroll on the preserve and capture some wildlife. We just wanted to let you know that our annual photo contest is still going on throughout the year. Those photo submissions should be submitted by the end of February, this coming February, and it's good for any photo that's been taken in 2021 or 2022 is what we're in, and to that February date. And we have a new website that has just been launched, a new site on a page on our website that has been launched from our intern over the summer. She worked really hard on that, so it looks really great. And you can learn more about the photo contest and the categories for that. If you have any questions, feel free to call the office or give me a shout out. But as you're thinking about engaging with the preserve, make sure you share the photos that you capture, because we use these in a multitude of ways. They get in our annual report. They also get in some of the appeals and solicitations that we send out, our emails, social media. I'm in this library a whole lot, so I really appreciate when these photos are shared. And they're just always stunning every year. So just a little plug for our photo contest.
Yeah, I can't understate how important photo contest photos are, also in our grant writing. So we're able to leverage this to get hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of state and federal money to support sustainable stormwater infrastructure and habitat growth in the upper portions of the Pennypack watershed. So if you have any ambition to get out there and shoot a photo, it doesn't have to be a contest winner to really make a difference in the way we do our work. Please go and do that. Thank you.
So we turn now to a question and answer session. If anybody has any questions that they would like to direct to any person on the board, please raise your hand and send that question to Kevin. I want to just make one comment while you all are considering doing that, and that is that a number of years ago, under David Robertson's direction, the name of this organization was changed to one that inserted the names of restoration, ecological and restoration trust. That makes Pennypack, as Chris has indicated, a unique organization among land trusts. There are land trusts in this area that acquire conservation easements and then simply sit back and watch those easements to see to it that nothing detrimental is done to them. But to take affirmative action to restore, and by that word restore, I mean build a sustainable forest area, a sustainable woodland area for the ecological benefit of the animals that are invited into that area, that choose to come into that area, including migratory birds, and also for the enjoyment of the membership and those who enjoy simply being out. That's a unique thing, but it's also very expensive. And we cannot just simply sit back and rest on the endowments that we have to say, well, we can hold on to what we have with the money that we have. Yes, but we cannot grow in terms of what our mission is, and grow in terms of our educational program, and grow in terms of the sustainability of the woodlands that are under our care without the continuing support of the membership. And so we want to emphasize in this meeting the gratefulness that we feel for all of the contributions in time and treasure that are given. We simply cannot ever sustain the management of this property by paying people to do it. It has to be done through volunteer efforts. And those volunteer efforts are not only rewarding to the individuals who participate in them, but they're definitely rewarding. Indeed, they are essential to the sustainability of this trust. And frankly, it's very exciting, very, very exciting to be in my position, to be on the board, and to see that we are just a few people doing this, but it is the volunteers and the members who sustain us with their money that actually cause this whole organization to be so, frankly, profoundly successful in its mission, in its goals, and in continuing on into the future. So, Kevin, are there any questions? I don't see any there.
All right, so questions. We have 3 questions and/or comments. One is from
Okay.
Susan down in Florida. Of course, she would ask this question. She's down in Florida. Have spotted lanternflies changed over time? So my short observation, I'm not an entomologist. She is actually in Senegal for the Peace Corps right now. But to answer that shortly, I'll look at MP for assistance. It seems like the population is spread out over time. We have lanternfly traps that we put out across the preserve. And this is our third or second year doing it. And this year there has been a dramatic decrease in the amount of the young that we have found. So that's my short answer, if MP has anything to add.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. And we've also been very fortunate that it hasn't affected our trees to the extent that we expected. This is not like gypsy moth several decades ago. We seem to be maintaining healthy trees, and they haven't affected our reforestation efforts in any way.
Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, and we hope to see you guys back on the preserve pretty soon, but enjoy Florida. Deborah Kessler has our next question here. Are there plans to increase and update signage, specifically more no pets permitted? While this may seem minor, as a visitor center barn sitter volunteer, there has been an increase of folks with pets on leashes in the headquarters area. I guess I can take a crack at this. Yes, part of the capital campaign is a large signage and wayfinding effort. So hopefully we will address this and it'll be more clear to visitors as they arrive and through our social media and website that these signs will be there. Chris?
I just want to add that I think all of us have a duty to very politely ask our visitors to keep their dogs on a leash only on Creek Trail. That's really the only trail in which pets are allowed. And the reason for that is because we have foxes right now are in mating season. They're leaving scent marks all over the woods, and they're trying to communicate with each other, not with Felis domesticus. And we don't want to complicate those signals, not for foxes, not for coyotes, and not for any of the other animals that are busy nesting, foraging, finding shelter, etc. This is one of the many things that keeps us different from other open spaces. And being responsible for our dogs is an important thing to learn here and elsewhere.
Thank you, Chris. And you mentioned we do like that our members do educate folks there. The key word there is educate. If you do see people breaking the rules, we kindly ask you that you just educate them. No starting confrontations. Educate them about the resource and why we have that rule. If they choose to get ignorant, just kind of ignore them and keep moving on. But thank you guys. That is the goal we have here, and just try to educate folks. That's why we have these rules. All right. Thank you, Deborah. The next one is from Kathleen, and she says, as I listened today to news of the Biodiversity Summit meeting in Canada and all the goals they set at the last one, not one of which was met, I felt tremendous pride and comfort that tonight I will get to listen to this annual meeting and reflect on all the ways in which Pennypack is actually doing something for biodiversity. Thank you, Kathleen, and you are a huge part of that. Our volunteers and people like you are the reason the Pennypack Trust is so successful at making a difference locally. You, Kathleen, that was inspiring. And another one comes from Deborah. As a visitor center volunteer, it's my pleasure to ask everyone who comes to the visitor center if they would like to become a member or increase their membership. And just like I said for Kathleen, whether you're on the preserve or in the barn, in the visitor center being a barn sitter, you guys are the reason we can do what we do. So thank you, Deborah. And then
I'd just like to add one thing, Kevin. I think that Kathleen's comments are fantastic. And yet I don't want to suggest that the Pennypack Trust is the only place that's doing things about biodiversity. Protecting open space is the job of land trusts. It is also the job of state parks and federal parks to do those things. And for us to work collectively to cherish and to grow open space in a connected way. If we don't do this in a connected way and maintain our partnerships, and I look at Clayton Walsh here, who's on this meeting, Lord's New Church, and other neighbors who have 3 acres, 1 acre, 80 acres, our ability to be friends and allies in maintaining space, not just for this species, but for others, is the key to sustainability and cherishing and valuing biodiversity for generations to come. Thank you very much for saying that, Kathleen.
I agree. Thank you, Chris. Just one more comment here about dogs, similar to the last one, people letting their dogs off leashes, leaving their bags next to the trail or in the woods, which is even worse. Like I said before, I'll just reiterate, please, if you do see people doing this, approach them nicely and just kindly educate them about the resource and why we have these rules. Obviously, that is a problem we have here. It's one of our biggest concerns. Not just with our land trust, others as well. So thank you guys for keeping an eye on that. And please do be nice about it and just educate folks why we have those rules. Thank you. That's noted. All right. Any other questions or, all right, one more here. If you do have any more, just please type them in the chat box. I will read this last question. This is from Chris. It's more of a comment, he says, but if the trust goal is to limit disturbance to wildlife, they should close all the trails to horse and foot traffic. People walking the trails disrupt fox as well. However, if their goal is to provide access to nature and all members of the community, then they should look for ways of opening up the trails to more uses, including mountain biking and dog walking. Chris,
I'd be happy to take that. Yeah, sure.
That's all you.
I think your point is well taken, Chris. I think that there's a really careful balance that not just the Pennypack Trust, but many other suburban park systems and open spaces must manage, in that we're surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of people and their dogs. And it's easy, COVID has taught us, that we can overlove some of our spaces, and the erosion and the trampling that comes from those kinds of things is substantial. When you add the velocity, the acceleration and the braking of mountain bikes on slopes just a little bit greater than 2 or 3%, you're really dealing with a lot of erosive force that you simply won't get from even just trail runners. So we have to maintain that balance in the best, clearest way possible. And I think clarity is the number one item here. So making sure that dog walkers and mountain bikers can only use Creek Trail keeps things very simple, and also keeps that connected to all the other major trail systems that one would connect to on a bike. For instance, the county's Pennypack Trail that's now done this gorgeous connection out to Southampton and beyond, soon to connect also to Peace Valley. So we're not trying to discourage mountain bikers from mountain biking. We're simply trying to strike a balance in this particular open space with these particular core values. And we hope we don't take offense, but rather see the connectivity and respect the boundaries that we've got.
Thank you, Chris. I like your answer there. And that is, like you said, we're one of the few places that has these limitations on part of our preserve. And that's kind of what makes us special. There's plenty of places to ride your bikes, walk your dogs. This is one of the very, very few places left just for wild native animals. And most of our trails are already that way. And that's why our capital campaign is aiming to improve our signage and our wayfinding. So those people with dogs and bikes will be guided gently to just the Creek Trail. So thank you. A couple more questions and comments here with dogs and things. One from Byron. This is a good question. In terms of people leaving things on the trails or woods, what is the view on leaving pumpkins? So our general rule here is take nothing but memories or photographs and leave nothing but footprints. Just a general rule of thumb here. We don't want people taking pretty much anything or leaving anything on our preserve without our permission. So just a rule of thumb there. We don't want your pumpkins. We don't want your squirrels. Please do not bring things to the preserve without calling us first and getting permission. So that's just a general rule of thumb. Leave nothing and take nothing but photographs. Susie appreciates the focus on sustainability, solar, geothermal, and me as the educator, I'm very excited to teach the public and the community about these things in the coming years. So thank you for that comment. And just kind of more comments about the dogs and people ignoring signs and things like that. That is exactly why we've listened to the members, and that's why we're working on the signage and the wayfinding as part of our capital campaign. So thank you all for those comments. Go ahead.
To Winifred, so one of the new aspects of those wayfinding signs is there'll be like delineated loops you can take. So if you have your dog, you can start at one point, take this whole dog approved loop and then loop back to where you started rather than just going on a straight line and doubling back. So we're very conscious of like land trail use and kind of designating according to what you want your experience to be. So hopefully having those kind of dog-friendly loops, the dog-friendly loop through with this new signage will help with that somewhat.
I do not see any more questions, so I will leave it to Chris or our president, Gil High, to finish this out here. Thank you all
Yeah.
for joining us.
Yeah. I wanted to just point out that you all members have received the annual report that is here. There are 3 great articles in this report that you should take a look at. One of them relates to the internship program that the trust maintains to train young people in ecological restoration and microinvertebrates and so forth. This is part of the educational outreach of the trust that was generated, I think, and given a whole lot of impetus by the last strategic plan. So it's a great article about those young people. The second one is that the PERT actually reaches out into the community. One of the grants we received was to do some restoration work, if you will, and to create facilities at Fulmer Park, which is a community over in Hatboro. And the purpose is to take this one area where there was significant water runoff into the creek and to mitigate that runoff by the creation of stormwater management facilities. So that's a great article. And the third one is that the Cross County Trail is in fact coming into our area. So that article is to list, frankly, the positive aspects of what that Cross County Trail is going to do. But this is in the future, but it is on its way. So this is going to bring opportunities for a number of other people to come into the vicinity of the trust. And the article indicates how that can be managed. So please take a look at this report. It's a great job that staff did in its preparation. And with that, I have nothing further unless anybody else has anything further. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Okay, I see a hand raised. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for your attendance.